So all across the Middle East, the hijab is a sign of oppression. It's a sign of the actual patriarchy, and now it's being promoted by feminists. You want to talk about toxic masculinity? That's the only place in which it exists, really, in the world.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
So Mattel has released their first hijab Barbie, having been directed to by actual feminists who, of course, have sided with Islam, the most misogynistic belief system on the planet. And we were talking about how the hijab is not a symbol of feminism. Again, no matter how hard they try and sell that propaganda, the hijab is not a symbol of feminism. We were talking about Azra Q. Nomani, the founder of the Muslim Reform Movement. Oh, by the way, the first Arab feminist Muslim groups in the Middle East discarded the hijab. They saw it as a symbol of oppression 100 years ago, but now CNN says it's cool, trendy, and diverse, and it's a feminist symbol. Okay, let's listen to what Azra Nomani says. She cites examples of this hijab purity culture and how it's led to the deaths of young women and girls. Recently in Bareilly, India, a father killed his daughter, 4 years old, smashing her head against the floor when her scarf slipped from her head during dinner. In Ontario, a few years ago, a man strangled his 16-year-old sister when she defied their father, including by refusing to cover her hair. Back in November last year, a former University of Missouri instructor dragged a female relative aged 14 out of school by the hair when he discovered she hadn't covered her hair. Today in Iran, friends of the journalist Mahish Alin Ajad dodge batons as they shoot photos of themselves hair bare in a campaign Alin Ajad started, My Stealthy Freedom, to protest against Iran's mandatory headscarf law. You've seen the pictures, we shared them in the past. Women in Iran, Muslim women, take off their veil as a form of protest. They're protesting for actual feminist freedom because Iran enforces a draconian law making them wear a headscarf. So all across the Middle East, the hijab is a sign of oppression. It's a sign of the actual patriarchy, and now it's being promoted by feminists. You want to talk about toxic masculinity? That's the only place in which it exists, really, in the world. Few other places, but mainly there. And you're promoting the very symbol of toxic masculinity by claiming it's some kind of feminist symbol. It's not. The women in Syria liberated from ISIS discard their veil because ISIS makes them wear it. It's not a feminist symbol. It's not a symbol of freedom to cover up women. I see like 4 or 5-year-old kids running around in hijabs. It's just completely wrong. No matter how hard you try and push this, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Absolutely incredible. Now, of course, we've had a massive fallout from this sex abuse scandal. Now, if you go up on drudgereport.com, they've got a story about Arianna Huffington turned a blind eye to sexual abuse, sexual assault at the Huffington Post. This is really affecting predominantly the left. Of course, it first emerged out of Hollywood with the Harvey Weinstein revelations. Now it's infecting politics. Over in the UK, we had the Westminster scandal, so-called because there was a lot of revelations about sex abuse being uncovered in Westminster. Of course, now it's affecting newsrooms across America, predominantly left-wing. Now, of course, you had sex abuse scandals on the right. You've got the Judge Roy Moore situation now. He denies the allegations. It's predominantly, though, affects the left, which, of course, is highly ironic because they're the ones who constantly virtue signal about how misogynistic, about how sexist the right is. And yet, what do we see? A lot of the most prominent, vehement male feminists have since been exposed as sexual abusers of women. Because we had the hilarious case of Sam Criss, who was a very prominent hater of mine. He was a Vice writer. I think he also wrote for The Guardian. He was a male feminist. He was one of my most vehement haters. He was a far-left Marxist, constantly virtue signaling about how we were all misogynistic bigots. Of course, you know what happened to Sam Criss, right? Well, the woman who he sexually assaulted went public and basically laid bare how he was trying to get her to have sex with him. She wasn't interested. He put his hands on her. He sexually assaulted her. He also bragged about, by the way, this is a Marxist, remember, this is a Marxist. he bragged about how he could take her back to, quote, his parents' massive house, or his massive house. He said, I can take you back to my massive house. The girl said, well, it's not your house, is it? It's your parents' house. And he said, well, yeah, but I'm going to inherit it. This is a Marxist. He's talking about the economic system in that way. And he's sexually assaulting women. And he admitted to it. He's since disappeared from Twitter. And the irony is delectable, because he was one of the prominent people who was lecturing everybody else about how they need to be an ally of women, a male feminist. He turns out to be an actual sexual abuser, because he also had Rupert Myers, who also had to apologize for groping women. He was a vehement male feminist. So again, the fallout seems to affect predominantly a lot on the left. But as I explained in this video, the new sexual Puritans, which is up on my YouTube channel, it's now kind of crossed over, it's transgressed into something more, which is third wave feminism, having been completely debunked and discredited, now hijacking this scandal as it crosses across the board from the entertainment industry to politics to newsrooms. They're hijacking the scandal to demonize and to demean all men. Now, I give evidence of this in the article, in the video, sorry, because we had Lindy West being given a platform last week, another top feminist, Lindy West, given a platform by the New York Times to basically make the argument that this proves that feminists, third wave, screeching, harpy feminists were right all along, that all men are evil, that it was right to hate men, that misandry is perfectly okay, because look what happened. Look at all these men abusing women. So again, they institute this collectivist narrative where all men, an entire gender, are to blame for the actions of a relative few, if you compare the few who've been exposed to the actual male population in the West, conflate that and use it to demonize all men, to say, look, we were right all along. And what did Lindy West do? What did these other top feminists do in the aftermath of the Harvey Weinstein scandal? Well, they wrote articles, they wrote blogs, they made videos saying basically men need to ascribe to all these different behaviors. In fact, there was one Medium article which listed 20 behaviors that men needed to take, that needed to change and adopt in order to not be an evil, sexist, misogynistic abuser of women. So they basically came out and said, look, you're all guilty. You had, what was his name, Matt McGorry, the actor on CNN, come out and say, we're all complicit. All men are complicit in this. We're all guilty. Oh, and by the way, the only way for you to atone for it is to adopt all our demented far-left political beliefs. Well, isn't that a coincidence? The only way we can prove we're not evil sexual abusers is by adopting all your political beliefs. Oh, but this is about protecting women, isn't it? No, it's not. It's about power. It always comes back to power. So in one case, in this Medium article, this top feminist, and it's in the video, you can read the examples, she basically goes through it and said, right, now you need to support abortion, you need to support Black Lives Matter. There was all kind of weird stuff in there, like you need to only watch ethical porn, whatever that is. A bunch of other stuff. She said, you can't use the term social justice warrior anymore. That's sexist. You can't use the term feminazi anymore. Basically, an entire list of language policing, of thought policing, of behavior control. And if you don't adopt all of this, you're an evil, sexist, misogynistic abuser of women. That's what they're doing with the fallout from this sexual abuse scandal. They're conflating it, hijacking it, using it for their own ends. That's going to wrap it up for this hour of the Alex Jones Show. War Room is coming up. Breaking news at Infowars.com. Be sure to get the products Brainforce Plus at InfowarsStore.com.
If you are receiving this transmission, you are the resistance.
Let's tell you again about InfowarsStore.com before we get into a few final news, because we've got all the great specials up there. Again, 50% off InfowarsStore.com. A ton of great specials. We also have Brainforce. Now, this is what I really want to emphasize. Brainforce. You have to get your Brainforce. You have to stock up for Christmas on Brainforce because it triggers the left like nothing more. I'm going to talk about this every week forever now. Let's just absolutely cash in on this. You remember BuzzFeed, of course. They came out with a big hit piece about our products, saying, oh, is there something wrong with Infowars products? Turns out, no, they're perfectly fine. Gave us a nice little boost. We actually made money off that hit piece, and we used it to sell more products in the future. We actually created a BuzzFeed special at the time. We should probably create a Brainforce special at some time in the near future, given the amount of triggering that's gone on with the mainstream media as regards to Brainforce Plus, over the past couple of weeks. So you can get your Brainforce stock up for Christmas, get all the other great specials, 50% off a lot of them with free shipping across the board at InfowarsStore.com.